Welcome to the Fairest Love podcast. Here we explore spiritual insights and practical strategies to help you cultivate a family life rooted in beautiful, self-giving love. Join us as we invite experts to share uplifting perspectives and actionable advice for navigating the joys and challenges of modern family dynamics. All right. Welcome back to the Fairest Love podcast. We are so excited to be joined this new year by Claire Pelletier, professional organizer based out of Houston. Claire has been helping clients design practical and beautiful spaces for an organized life, and she's joining us today to help give advice for those New Year's resolutions and to make our homes as beautiful as possible, making those spaces very intentional that we live in. Claire, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
So we'd just like to start to get to know you a little bit better, but what inspired you to become this professional, organizer? I know you go into people's homes and you help them to reorganize certain spaces that they need help in. How did you get started in that field?
Yeah, so I will give you a short version of that story. A lot of people ask me, a lot of my clients ask me, so how long have you been doing this? And I like to say, I've been doing this for 35 years, but professionally for 4 years. So I've been being paid for it for the last 4 years, but I've always kind of I love taking small spaces and kind of rethinking through them. And from the time we got married, we lived in a very small space. And so, that just doing that and growing with our 5 children, I love that challenge. So as far as the journey of how I got here, I stayed at home with our kid. I have a wonderful husband, Mark, who we've been married 35 years, and we have 5 grown children and 2 incredible grandsons. And for the first big part of our marriage, I stayed home with our kids and was blessed to be able to stay at home. And then I went back and I was a teacher for 7 years. And then I worked at an all-boys school here in Houston for another 7 years. And then I worked at an all-girls school for a while. And I got out of that during COVID. And during COVID, like a lot of people, just started organizing even more intentionally in our home. And it was my daughters who used to work at the Container Store that said, "Mom, you should probably go work at the Container Store." And I thought, okay. And at that point, I was really just kind of looking for something very, very different. And so that's where that part started as far as like getting into the more nuts and bolts of organizing. And then after I was at the Container Store, so like maybe 2021, I think it was 2022, there was a big freeze here. And that's what kind of got me jump started. I helped a friend who actually is like a really big cheerleader. She's my biggest cheerleader. She's the one that said, "Claire, you should start doing this." So I helped her kind of organize her entire house because her whole house she had a lot of broken pipes and she had to move everything out. And so it was like moving everything back in. And so that's when I quit the Container Store and just started doing it for friends. And then that snowballed into a lot of people just reaching out and from there. And then the Container Store reached out and said, would you be interested in being a contractor for them? So I get leads from there. I get leads from next door and from word of mouth. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Love that. And so now, you have this, it's called Simplify with Claire. And
Yes.
What makes your approach unique? So actually, I've never heard, this is incredible because I haven't heard of a professional organizer. You see them on TV shows and stuff, but like, I love that there's someone you can actually hire and help with all that. So what makes your kind of approach or even just how you go about helping your clients different or unique?
Yeah. So our mission really is to accompany and journey with each client. Probably the best way to understand that is the process that in the process, we have a 4-step process. And it's survey, sort, then restore, and then we maintain, we sustain it. So through those 4 steps, and actually those 4 steps, it's interesting. You can apply that to really any space. So I have worked with clients who are in 1-bedroom apartments and they just need help with their closet. And I've been in mansions, I've been in hospitals, businesses. So it doesn't matter how small or how large. It's really kind of interesting how practical these 4 steps are that you can apply to anything. I think what I love and really is our mission that makes it a little bit unique is that I love meeting people where they are. And it starts in that first part, which is the survey, which I come in and I meet the client. It's their consultation. and I really get to know them. And people are so different, which I love. I love really getting to know, are they single? Are they married? Do they have a big family? How do they use this space? And so I just kind of accompany them through the process, make sure that whatever we do works for them. So what works for one client works very differently for another client. And I like to say that with the clients. I mean, I'm gonna walk away from here and this is your kitchen. So let's, so I love working with them and accompanying them to this, on this process. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. And yeah, like you said, that I love that you're approaching the clients differently and giving them an opportunity to share their own personal, whatever flair, whatever you want to call it, to the spaces that they use. And that takes a lot of creativity on your part too, because in order to help them, you have to be creative to see what areas, they need help in, but then also that work for them. Just as a plug for you, just your social media too, because I know that you have a lot of befores and afters, and those are just so fun to watch because it's like, wow, you did not expect such. Sometimes it's drastic, sometimes it's like, oh, very pretty and neat and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and we'll share that at the end of the show. But it's so fun to see, like, yeah, there's very practical in how we see you go through about your work.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say? Like you mentioned, working with different clients on different things that they need. What would be the most rewarding thing for you with helping your individual clients with organizing their spaces?
I think, and it's probably it has taken me years to kind of come to understand, where I am in this business, like in this time in my life. And I will say the most rewarding thing is realizing that we go into people's homes, and I think it's just very easy to see, like you said, it's very easy to see the before and afters and go, wow, I mean, this space is, you can see everything now and it's labeled. But I think the most rewarding thing is that people don't realize it's not really about that perfect pantry or that perfect kitchen, or it doesn't even have to be Pinterest worthy. Maybe it's just more orderly. It is really cool to see people change interiorly from a space that's now they can use, that's well ordered, less about the physical part and more about the interior part. To seeing that change in my clients is very, very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. So we've talked about, your company and your business and what you do. Let's just dive into some more practicals that our parents can help them, whether they have New Year's resolutions to keep their homes orderly, or even just that's just something they've always been struggling with or wanting to do. What are some top tips for parents to help them organize let's start with their kids' rooms first. Let's just, because that I think tends to be the most, overwhelming piece of a home. So what would you give some advice for parents for that?
Yeah, so kids' rooms, yes, and I would just couple that with like toys. That's also a very big thing. I would say what I see is the amount. So if you could look at the amount of toys and see, is this everything that they play with? So just being intentional about looking, just for the sake of uh, an easier vision, let's just look at a playroom. If everything is out and all the toys are available for your child, if you have one or if you have 10, it can be very overwhelming. I have, especially now in the season, like in the last 2 months, I've had a lot of toy clients with toys issues. And the first thing I see is just the amount of toys. So, and I'm not saying it's not saying that that's bad. It's just that it's good to just stop and be intentional. And that's kind of the consultation survey part, where you're just like, let's just look at this. Let's just see, what are we actually playing with, and removing those things that we actually don't need them anymore. So I would say look at the amount, and sometimes that means rotating toys. So maybe they don't want to get rid of all the toys, or they're not ready to or move those toys on. Even just like taking out some of them and categorizing all your toys, but like removing, instead of offering them 50 puzzles, offer them 25 puzzles, put the other 25 up, and then rotate those out maybe every 2 weeks. You'll see a big difference in your kids. I mean, it's like Christmas when you pull out the new puzzles that get rotated. So, and it also makes it easier for them to maintain their toy space. So when they have a obviously for a smaller amount to have to maintain. So rotating things, just like you would your clothes in a closet, your seasonal things. You don't have all of your clothes available. you just take your seasonal things, you put them up. And so that, having a smaller amount to deal with, I would say is a big tip. Also, just again, that intentional look at your space. So you're looking at your things, but you're also looking at your space. It's super helpful to kind of rethink through it. Like, is this really the best place for this? This, like the way our family runs, is this the best place for these toys? Is it better to be stored here or maybe on the other side, in another room? What if we switched rooms? So rethinking kind of the placement of your toys, can you use walls? Are you using the doors or under the bed for storage? And that's kind of what we do during the consultation. I come in and just kind of help this client rethink their spaces. In the consultation, I say, can I open that door real quick? And so we'll open it and we'll talk through. And maybe that client had never thought, wow, I didn't think we could actually turn that into a storage. It's always been, I don't know, a coat closet. We'll move the coat somewhere else. And it just is much more practical. So rethinking the amount, rethinking the space. And then also I think is super helpful is giving everything a clear home and a clear boundary. So that, if we have boundaries, then it's much more maintainable to keep up with it. I mean, a good example is, I had a client, I walk in and she was saying, I really struggle with this. My daughter just really likes to keep all of these little things. She just keeps collecting them. And it's just like, it's just getting a lot to be a lot. And so, I mean, you want to encourage that because I think it's kind of cool. It's her hobby. It's something that she enjoys doing. The leaf, the rock that she found, the pictures she made, all those things. And so, I was just saying, if you just give her a boundary, whatever that is, like this is your shelf, this is your tabletop with this tray, or this is your special drawer, whatever that looks like, give them that boundary. And then they know, okay, this is what I have to work with. And if she brings in another rock or toy, maybe she learns to like switch it out, say, okay, it's still within the boundary, so it's not all over the place and it doesn't grow bigger than whatever you've decided on the boundary. And then also just getting your kids involved, like having that conversation and training, for example, that boundary is a great thing, talking to her daughter about, okay, so maybe it's going thrifting for a special shelf for her things. And she's involved in picking that out and she's involved in taking care of that, her special things. I would say those are probably, helpful, those few tips.
Yes, I love those. And I actually was going to ask you about that. You mentioned intentionality and you mentioned, that last part about getting your kids involved. Have you noticed that when working with clients that what are some of your first impressions when you go in for the survey? Do they think, oh, my kids are going to be involved in this? Or how does that approach look and how do you approach suggesting maybe let's get kids involved and to what extent is their involvement? Do they get to decide like all these little things or, I mean, it's a very big question, but
no, that's a great question. It's a big answer, but I'll try and make it small.
Yeah.
Again, it's like people are so different. So you have, very ends of the spectrum. Like I just had a client and she's a young girl and, she's in junior high and she actually wanted that was her gift. That was her Christmas gift was an ordered bedroom. She wanted it organized and she wanted to be involved in it. So it's awesome. Wow. So you have that.
Yeah.
And then, so it's actually really getting to know your kids and really knowing what is helpful for them. So this mom, I could just tell, I mean, this is what she wanted. And so she encouraged her daughter to meet me and we are working through doing that for her. But then I have parents, they're like, if I got rid of this, my child would go crazy. Like we can't get rid of, all of these things. And so it's just a conversation with, sometimes just in talking to the clients, to the parents in that conversation, they start realizing, I think it's time for me to start, she doesn't play with this, and just teaching, so it's a conversation with the parent. I've had great conversations. I think all parents really want to be great parents. It's in the conversations with people that they come to understand what works for their child. So sometimes it's getting their child involved, and sometimes it's when their child, I've had it with their child's in school. And so they take those things that they know it's time to move on and maybe it's hard for their child. And so they'll put them up. And so I was saying, And I told them, like, if they don't ask for it, and let's just put a time limit on it, 2 months, then it's time to move on. It's time to move those things on. So I think it's just, there's different, it depends on the child. And a lot of times, and sometimes it is with working with them,
Right.
and teaching them that. So it depends on the age and their personality and such.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
great. I love that. Those examples too of the older girls or that older client or the middle school or junior high client that was seeking advice. I mean, that's really beautiful too. That the daughter that girl could recognize, I need some help here and I'm seeking that help too. I love that.
Right.
What are so we've been talking about kids. I know kids we think of kids being the ones that are messy and stuff, but what are some systems that families can do together, whether that's in their family living room space, their kitchen, those things that can help keep things orderly, clean, organized? What are some of those solutions that could help in keeping those things, organized?
Ordered. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I would say that if I answer this correctly, I think the first thing to look at is like the spaces that you use a lot. So like in a kitchen, we would call the space prime property. So it's like the countertops, the bottom shelf of the cabinets, the drawers that are right there. Those are all like prime property. Those are things that you want to use often. So I would say think about if you're trying to come up with, okay, how can we start getting organized? Think of something that you're using a lot. And that typically is a drop zone. Like if you have a busy family life, it's that space when you first come in. And what does that look like? And I love having conversations with my client parents about that too, because it's just thinking through, okay, is this actually working? Like, where are the backpacks going? Where are my keys going? It's all those things: keys, mail, backpacks, those things, and making those functional so that those don't become overwhelming. I often will see, I have often seen drop zones like the tops of kitchen counters, and there's no structure there, and it just becomes a pile, and so it gets frustrating. So it's just thinking, okay, is that the best place? Like, is it working for you? I mean, it might be, but the conversation is this actually closest to the door that you're coming in, which is probably what's happening? Can you set up a small little place that's maybe not on the countertop? A little shelf with some drawers. A lot of times we're not using walls, so like walls, hooks is also a big thing. So yeah, using I would say tackle the functional space for sure, and then selecting. If you're thinking about functional spaces for kids, like selecting pieces of furniture that will grow with them, I think is also. I don't want to make a pitch for IKEA, but I use I use their Calyx, but you can find those anywhere. Target, I mean, anywhere. These cubicle storage pieces, they are affordable, can allow you with accessories to make it, to upgrade it a little bit. But they really can grow. I've seen it in my own family and I've seen it with clients. I mean, they can grow. You can start it out as toy storage. They can become book storage. You can change it up and add accessories as they get older and as teenagers. So using something that's versatile and can grow with your family, I think, is also good.
Awesome. Yes. And so I'm curious these are all excellent pieces of advice and our parents will take them. What are some challenges or just, like hesitancies that maybe your clients might face, that our parents might face when facing this desire, when facing this need to start organizing? What are some of those like hesitancies that you have to help them walk through, but then also that are not maybe as scary as they think they are? Or, you mentioned with kids, like getting rid of toys is kind of hard for some children sometimes. With your clients that you've experienced, do they have similar issues, or and how have you helped them kind of overcome that and encouraging parents to overcome those difficulties?
Yeah. Again, I think with each, the challenge in organizing is very different for each person and each family. I have seen sometimes it's just getting started. People just like, I can't even get started. I mean, it's so overwhelming, whatever that is, the kitchen, the toys, whatever. And they just don't see it. I had the best comment from a client after we helped her. She was an elderly client, and she said, for the first time, you've shown me possibility. And I said, I love that word. I love that word. And that's what we are hoping as we journey with our clients, is that they see beyond kind of this pile, that they see the possibility of something bigger, something ordered, so that they live an ordered life. I would say we help people see that through a space plan for that area, bringing in product for that area and helping them journey to that. Sometimes though, so in the process, it's the sorting, it's going through the things.
Yeah.
That is a big challenge for people. Like it's hard for them to choose whether they should keep it or not and what to do with it. And I'm not really sure. So they get bogged down in that and they can't move to that restore part of the process. And sometimes clients just hire us for that. I mean, that comes out in the consultation. I'll say, okay, when I get to know the client, I'll see they're more DIYers. They go, okay, I can do that. I can put the space plan in. Like I know where I want my things, but I don't know how to edit all the things that I have. So we'll come in and we help them do that. I tell them, okay, we're your hands and feet. So like, for example, in a closet, I have another organizer who helps me, and I ask all the questions of the client. And I tell them, you're doing all the work and we're just your hands and feet, but you're doing all the decision making. And so I'll pull each, and that's part of sorting, which can be very daunting for people, is you make a choice on every single item in that space. So it was for this client's closet. It was every single thing, every shoe, everything came out. And we just say, is this something? And some things go quicker than others. And I can tell when clients are really motivated, it goes a lot quicker. Like they get to the point where they're just ready for help. And so, I'm basically I hand it to my organizer and she puts it in the correct category. But we're kind of the hands and feet of that client. And that's all they really needed, is just being able to go through. We put everything in, we categorize it by shirts, sweaters, that kind of thing. And then donations, another, as they sort, this is so typical when you go through a space, is you get bogged down in like, I remember this was from, 10 years ago. And I actually, I'm number one, very aware that people are paying me to go through the space. So I'm super aware of that. But I'm also, I kind of work with the client, because sometimes it takes that conversation to move that on. And if I can tell that the client is slowing down and it's not, they need to be pushed a little more. We push them a little more and we move that thing on into the category. So it's, sometimes it moves, and I tell that client, I move as slow and as fast as you are doing. And I gently keep asking those questions to push you to your end goal. We just basically help them focus on that end goal. So that's the other thing, is that people will need help sorting, and then then they put it all back. Some people, they don't need help sorting. I offer a DIY sort for people where they say, oh, I can do that. I mean, I can go through my stuff. I just don't know. I don't know what kind of product to buy. I'm not sure how to put it back in this place. So I send a DIY sort plan to them, which is just itemize exactly what we would do. And so that saves them money, but it also, I actually love that, because it allows them to be a part of that, really be a part of the process of editing. And so we show up the next day, everything has been categorized, and we put it back. I bring all the product and that kind of stuff. So they need help with the putting, the restoring, not necessarily the sorting. I think just meeting people, everybody's a little different. Some people are DIYers. Sometimes I've had clients where they're, I can do everything. I just need you to send me the links and send me the plan. And so that's kind of a DIY all. And so they, so I just kind of meet people where they are and where their needs are, what's stopping them to keep, to get through to the end. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. And I love that, bringing in the idea that it could be different things for every person. And that's, and that you can start like I love that, bringing that in, because that's true. I think a lot of times we get overwhelmed by the start of it. And then it's like, oh, by the end of it, it's like, oh, I know how to do this easy, as long as I just start, or as long as I just can organize or sort these into categories, or those kinds of things. That is helpful to know. It's not always the same. I think.
I always tell people too, like with sorting, if they want to do the DIY sort, what's helpful, which is why they reach out, is that they need somebody. So, sometimes it's us working with them to kind of move it to the end, and we do it a lot quicker. That's the other thing. We could do it in a day, but some people aren't like that. They're like, I can do it. I just, so then I encourage them, like, call a couple friends, get a friend, get get your mom, get your sister, and and at the end of the day, pour your glass of wine and get your pizza, and then you can celebrate. But having somebody help you in that process, keep you moving to the end of the goal is super helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like an outside source too. It's not
Yeah.
because when you're in your own echo chamber, you're like, oh, maybe I do need that, or do you need that? I don't know. Maybe like
Right.
you can get bogged down by just thinking over and over again about what you think, and then not hearing that outside source. I love that. I do have a couple of fun questions to ask, kind of just to close out the conversation here. But what are some of your favorite organizing tools or products that you use when you're helping with your clients, or even in your own home? Just, you can name a few. Now you don't have to do too many, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to advertise here.
yeah.
I hope that's not
It could be
bad.
like a general product or general
Okay,
thing
okay.
too. It doesn't have to be specific. Yeah.
Okay, like cube storage, which I had mentioned before, huge. I love it. I love over the door, the Alpha products. I love the over the door. They're super versatile, and you can use them anywhere. And you can take them, you can take them with you. You can change them up to fit, maybe in a bathroom once, and then your walk-in closet the other time. But you can also install them into the wall, which is helpful. So I love using that. I love like multi-purpose bins, which are, you can find them anywhere, but they're just clear and they're modular and they come in different sizes. They're just simple buckets, but that's super key in organizing, is giving boundaries, and labeling is also huge when you have more than one person using the space. Very helpful. We did a rectory once. So there were like 3 priests living there, and we labeled, like, it was kind of funny, but I'm like, this is really how it's going to help, because those priests aren't always going to be there, and sometimes they had a rotating priest. So it's like on all of their cabinets, it was all labeled on the outside, and that's how you can keep it up, and then you're not having to ask or tell the person the next time. So you wouldn't do that within your family, but the multi-purpose bins, like the also hooks are also super helpful over the door, on the wall, where you're hanging things, very, very easy. So yeah, I love the bins that you can use anywhere. So there's also some stack bins that we use a lot. They're kind of for the deeper, under cabinets, for the deeper cabinets. Very helpful and versatile. Again, I love being able to use it in more than one place. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Great. Those are awesome. And then I have 2, but I'm gonna just ask one. How, if you could design the ideal family space, this might be a long question, but I'm just curious what you would think. What would it include and why? Family space. Like, that could be like a living room. Like, that could be organizing that space, and how would you design it to make it ideal?
Yeah.
For your family, or I don't know, in general. It is kind of like you said, everyone's personal and they do their own thing, but just curious what your thoughts would be.
Yeah, I keep using that word versatile, but I love pieces of furniture, whether they're ottomans or, things that they can be storage, they can be other things, but, so using versatile things. And then within a family space, making it super inviting, like very, where you can, I mean, even within our own home, we needed some, and it was a game changer. I know this probably sounds silly, but we ended up buying these we thrifted these pieces of furniture from a hotel, from a hotel liquidator, and they were big and comfy. And I was telling my husband, like, I just want to hunker down here. Like, I want people to walk in this space and say, I want to sit. You want it to be like, I want to sit down. I want to sit down. And also just like having like games or toys nearby, but in a beautiful basket. It doesn't have to be just laid out. It could just be a simple basket or such. Conversation pieces, but like a space that kind of invites that conversation. And it did it, and it does. That those chairs, I think about that. I mean, it wasn't very expensive, but it's like, you want to just put your feet up, you want to, and you're not, and they're not like, I'm not worried about them if somebody spills something on it. So making it super friendly, where it's versatile and also inviting. So
Awesome. How about just to kind of round us out with this conversation, do you want to share a little bit about Simplify with Claire? And then if we have if we have listeners in Houston or in the Texas area, are you solely in Houston, or do you go a little bit outside of Houston, or
We
tell
go
us a
a
little bit
little
about
bit
what you do
outside.
and
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
want to travel to like England or something to help.
Um, so we are in Houston. We're based in Houston, but we do Sugarland and Katy, which is kind of the surrounding area, Baytown. We've gone to the surrounding area, but yeah, we please. I hopefully out of this conversation, I people see that I meet you where you are. So it's it could be the one, it could be us coming in to do everything, but it maybe it's not, maybe it's us helping you kind of get to where you need to, what you need to get to an ordered space. And a lot of times it's just a conversation. So yes, please reach out. I'd be super happy to talk through that.
Awesome. And your website is simplifywithclaire.com.
Yes.
And that's the same with social media, correct?
Yes. Yes. The Father Claire. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Claire, so much for being on our show and providing your expertise in this area.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mary Grace.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Fairest Love podcast. In 2025, we are continuing to share the beautiful devotion to Mary, Mother of Fairest Love, while providing practical tools and advice for parents, couples, and families. You can help us with this mission by sharing this episode with a friend, subscribing to the podcast, or leaving a review. To learn more, visit us at fairestlovefamilyproject.org.